My 26M fiancé, 25F, doesn't want to contribute financially anymore after our engagement. We've met in college 7 years ago. When we first started going out to dates, she would reject my attempt to pay the bills in full and insist we should split or each pays for what he ordered. I wasn't expecting that because in Morocco it's usually the guys who pay for the dates, but since she insisted I said okay. She would do it for regular dates, restaurant, coffee shop, parks, and also when we started going out for vacations. For example, if she didn't have money with her and I paid for something, no matter how cheap it is, she would give that amount when we next met. Last summer we were on a vacation in our country, and in the last day of the vacation I had to cancel the flights because of an expected family business in the city we were visiting. We stayed for 3 more days and I've paid for both our hotel rooms and new plane tickets. Next time we met she gives me the money for the plane ticket and her hotel room, but I refused to take them since it was because of me that we had to stay for more days than planned. But still she didn't accept my refusal and I insisted that I take the money. Even when talking about scenarios in the future, she would still split the costs. When we were in a retail store and we saw a refrigerator, washing machine, dishwasher pack and we agreed that it was a good deal, she says, and it's only cost $13,000 each. The total price was $26,000. Also, when talking about our future kids and discussing names and how are we going to raise them, when we started talking about schools, she says, I know a school close to work. I've heard it's good and it's only $2,000 per month, so it's $1,000 each, and that includes the bus and lunch fees. We got engaged last December and have the wedding in the summer. In the last 2 months we've started shopping for furniture and appliances for the apartment, and I've noticed that she expects me to pay a much higher percentage than her in pretty much everything. She even refuses to pay anything for the TV because she doesn't watch it. Whenever I try to bring the subject up, she ignores me or get defensive, dismissive, whether by pretending she is tired, changing the subject, busy by work, or trying to sweet-talk me. We've had some pretty heated argument over the years, but we could always sit and talk face to face and try to tackle the problems as a team, something that she can't do when I bring this subject. It's not like she is struggling financially. She has a well-paying job and she doesn't provide for her parents, nor do they need her to, and she still buys very expressive stuff. Paying her share wouldn't even affect her financially or downgrade her lifestyle. I don't have any problem to be the sole financial provider in our relationship, but this sudden 180-degree change is something that I can't understand, especially coming from someone with her principles. I've told my best friend about this and he says that I should cancel the wedding and run as far as possible from her, because if she changed this much after the engagement, who can say how much she'll change after the wedding? I don't know what to do or how to approach this any differently than what I tried by talking to her, and at this point I don't even know if I am with the same person I've been with all this time. Pretty odd that she changed. Ask her what was the reason for the change so you can understand what her thinking is going into marriage. Ask her what does she expect from you in marriage. You both should have many topics about marriage if engaged. Kids, household bills, chores, etc. Discuss many topics before the day because you don't want to be shocked later on. I would try to have these conversations be pleasant. Not a time to argue, but listen to understand. If she cannot communicate now, or try to work on it now, how will communication work when married? It's pretty much the biggest challenge in relationships, so it's best to learn it now. I've told my best friend about this and he says that I should cancel the wedding and run as far as possible from her, because if she changed this much after the engagement, who can say how much she'll change after the wedding? Your friend is completely right. If she changed this much just with the promise of marriage, she will change even more once the papers are signed. At this point I don't even know if I am with the same person I've been with all this time. The person you are seeing now is the real her. The one you've seen before this was who she was pretending to be to con you into proposing. I tend to agree with your friend. She is exhibiting some disturbing behavior changes that most likely will get worse after the marriage. At the very least you need to postpone any wedding until you can come to a more reasonable understanding. Looks like she wants a provider man and not interested in 50-50 anymore. You can only solve this by talking with her. Discuss both of your expectations and opt for a solution. She even refuses to pay anything for the TV because she doesn't watch it. I kind of wonder if this might have something to do with the problem. Does she not want to pay as much because she feels like she doesn't have enough input on the decisions? From her perspective, is she being asked to pay for things she doesn't need or want? One way to tease this out is she insisting on particular furniture, but then insisting on you paying for all of it? Point out that she didn't want to pay for the TV because she doesn't watch it. See how she reacts to this double standard when it's impossible to ignore. I've told my best friend about this and he says that I should cancel the wedding and run as far as possible from her because if she changed this much after the engagement, who can say how much she'll change after the wedding? Yes. So I assume you both are Muslim since you're talking about Morocco and your name is Omar. In Islam there is such a thing that within marriage the husband has to pay for everything and that the money the woman earns is all for herself. I'm thinking maybe someone tipped her about this and she seems to like that idea? My 24F family believes my partner, 23M, is ridiculous for not wanting to pay all our rent. So for context, my partner and I have been together for 3.5 years. We have a really strong and stable relationship and both believe we're on the path to marriage, kids, and the rest of our futures together. We both live with our parents and have only sporadically lived away from home for school and jobs. I am a student, heading into my final year of teacher's college and my partner works full-time from home making around $4,000 a month. Now, we've decided we want to move in together, but we both have different perspectives on what ideally moving out looks like. My partner wants to save up to buy a house, and I would be okay with renting for a few years until we can afford to buy a house. The housing market in our city is ridiculously high, and it would likely take us another 2 or 3 years to be ready to buy a decent place in our area. Plus, we don't know if we're going to be staying here as he works remotely and I have yet to start my career. We've settled on apartment hunting, as he agrees with a lot of my reasoning for renting, and we're both really excited about living together. However, it has been made clear that my partner would prefer we saved for a house, so in a way us looking to get an apartment is me getting my way. This being the case, we've decided he shouldn't have to take on the full burden of renting even though he makes about 3-4x my monthly income. I plan to take on some student debt to help pay rent. I'm debt-free up to this point, as he has a car, his own student debt, regular investments, a desire to save, and rent costs about $1,500 per month in our city plus utilities and regular bills, which would leave him with not much room left for other expenses that would come up. The issue is, my family has started to express shock and frustration that my partner and I find it reasonable that I contribute to some rent and groceries once we find a place to live. Financially, I don't have much as I spend most of my money on tuition and other personal expenses, but loans would make it possible for me to contribute financially, something like he pays $1,000 of rent plus utilities and I pay $500 of rent plus groceries. My parents and sisters think my partner is being cheap and unfair for not offering to pay the full rent and utilities, but I don't see it that way and neither does my partner. This is nothing that we're hiding from one another, but it's driving a wedge between me, him, and my family. All I'm hoping for here is maybe some validation that me and my partner are not being ridiculous with our plans and some ideas of how I could better explain this to my family. I don't know how I can be more clear, but they don't seem to understand either of our perspectives. If anything is unclear I can clarify in comments and edits. Help. Edit. I neglected to mention that I do also work part-time and make around $18,000 a year because I work full-time in the summers. I would be taking student loans, some of which are bursaries that do not need to be repaid, on top of that income, and it would not be a huge amount of debt I'm accruing as I will be hired immediately after my graduation into a good-paying career. Edit 2. Thank you to everyone who has replied here. Many of you said what I wanted to hear and many of you gave me much to consider. I really appreciate how many people responded to this one. I was just hoping for a few comments and this blew my expectations wide open. I'm going to share this thread with my partner and I'm sure it will give us a lot to discuss. Thanks again, all heart. You shouldn't move out until you graduate and have a job. Don't take on student loan debt to pay rent. That's stupid. That just doesn't make good financial sense for you too. I don't know why you tell your family about all your business. Some things should only be between you and your partner. Why don't you wait to move out until you've started your career then? Nothing wrong with your planned arrangement. I just feel like you'd both benefit more if you waited. You're taking loans to pay bills? Stay at home if so. They don't need to understand or be convinced. Your bills aren't their concern. That's not a conversation they need to be a part of at all. Don't take on debt to pay rent. Living within your means is so important. If you take on debt to live on a higher level than you can afford, you'll regret it. You'd be better off staying at home until you start working and can afford to pay your portion of bills. You can't afford to move out yet. It wouldn't be fair for your boyfriend to pay for all of it since you say that wouldn't leave him much money after, but at the same time, you shouldn't have to contribute such a high percentage of your income. Taking on student loans to make something happen that you can't afford, that can be avoided by you waiting, wouldn't be smart. What obligation does boyfriend have to support you financially to begin with? Is your fam materialistic? They think it is healthy for you to be financially dependent on BF? We've decided he shouldn't have to take on the full burden of renting even though he makes about 3-4x my monthly income. That doesn't actually make any sense. I plan to take on some student debt to help pay rent. That is an idiotic idea. You never take out a loan to pay for something that won't be an asset. That's like taking out a loan to pay for groceries. I don't know how I can be more clear, but they don't seem to understand either of our perspectives. It looks like they understand it completely. Your plan is just bad. Didn't know friend invited 2 girls to an outing. Tell the wife now or after? 4 friends supposed to meet up for a sporting event. 2 of them flaked last minute. The friend that bought the tickets told me he was inviting 2 other friends to replace them and didn't say anything else. Now I'm in his car and we are about to pick up 2 of his friends that are girls. Should I text my wife and give her a heads up or tell her after or not say anything at all? I have no intention of doing anything that would remotely be conceived as flirtatious or unfaithful to my wife. Advice? Edit. I let her know and said I have no problems whatsoever skipping out and coming home if it makes her uncomfortable even in the slightest, waiting to hear back. Also, we will be there with my friend's cousin's family of 4 so we won't be completely alone. Update. All is good. Wife appreciated the heads up even though she said it wasn't necessary. 8 people there in total. Friend's cousin's family with 2 kids and us, which made it more wholesome. My friend didn't think to mention it because he thought since it was just a client and her friend hanging out it was no big deal. His wife was fine with it too. Probably just a small heads up would be nice. Situations like this aren't really answerable by other people. You should know how your own wife would react if she found out you were on what looks like a double date. If I called my wife and told her that, she'd think it was strange that I needed to run that by her first. Someone else's wife would flip out at the mere thought. If you have no bad intentions, then why are you worried? Tell her now. Like now before they even get in the car. Edit. If you're really worried, tell her their names too. A reasonable wife will understand. Tell her that she can tell you if she's not comfortable with it. Let her know she has an opportunity to speak up if she's uncomfortable with it. How is this an issue? Do you have a history of cheating? Are those women under the impression it's 6 double date situation? Is your friend telling you to have sex with them? I don't understand why your wife would care unless there's way more to the story. Tell her whenever you would normally interact with her. If you're the text all night, type, text her. If you're the talk when I get home, type, talk when you get home. Text her about what's going on. I'm just confused as to why he wouldn't have asked you if you wanted to invite your wife. After all, he was inviting woman. Your wife should be your go-to person for advice, not Reddit. Talk to her when you feel lost. As a wife, I find it respectful that you kept your wife in mind. Noise. 26F. My cousin, 23F. Messaged me after 7 years of no contact when she heard my dad passed away. I had this cousin called Susan and we grew up around each other and were very close. She cut me off 7 years ago for seemingly no reason and I made attempts to reach out to her over the years and I was ignored. Suddenly today, because she heard my father has died, I get a friend request from her on Facebook saying sorry for my loss and that she's there for me, etc. We chatted away pleasantly for a while. I then brought up the topic by asking, "Why did you block me for all those years? Why did you let it go on for so long?" She said the reason was due to her father and the wrong he was doing her, but that she also didn't like the person I was then and that she found me draining. So I then said, and what type of person was I then? And then she asked me why am I trying to start a fight with her? And is it confrontation or support I want? I replied by saying, she was the one who spent 7 years ignoring me when I did absolutely nothing to her and that she can't just waltz back into my life after 7 years and not expect me to ask questions. She then said that basically she's not trying to get back into my life. That she's only offering her support, that she doesn't feel we get on very well and doesn't particularly like me that much. So I basically told her I never asked for her support and that I don't want her support in that case and she can go right back to not talking to me again. It was how I felt and I felt I needed to say it. I blocked her then. I don't want the support of a person who says they don't like me and hasn't been around the last 7 years. Can I get some advice to find out if I handled the situation correctly, or if not, is there anything else I could have done differently? Sorry for your loss, Op. Your cousin sounds extremely complicated. I don't think you need that in your life. You did great. How can she give you support when she doesn't like you and doesn't want to be part of your life again? What the fuck kind of logic is that? This is not how you give support to someone. In my opinion, you definitely did the right thing. She's trying to salve her conscience by being there for you during a difficult time. You did right by blocking her. Sorry for your loss. I find this absolutely inappropriate to reach out when someone dies. How about care about people as long as they are alive? I would continue to ignore them. I would not answer to any message. If you choose to be gone, be gone. Or maybe Appa's unbearable and cousin just wanted to reach out in a time of need. Yeah, you did the right thing. Fake support is not needed. So sorry for your loss. I think you handled the situation just fine. My dad passed away just recently as well, and two of my cousins who I thought were close to me but live out of state never personally got in contact with me even though they have my number and friends with me on Insta. That wasn't cool with me, so I disassociated myself from them. Some people like our cousins just could care less, so we should do the same and focus on ourselves. Woman shrugging, light skin tone. Sorry for your loss. She would have been 16 years old when she cut contact with you. Still a child, but she obviously had her reasons and had her own boundaries. Take it for what it is. She has reached out to support you and offer condolences. That's nice of her. She may be right about you guys not getting along very well, and that's okay if you don't. Personally, I wouldn't have pushed it with her and just been civil. You don't need her in your life if you guys don't get along.